more offensive and a little bit quicker, most likely. The Thunderous on Toler's side has hidden power, but the Thunderous on Raphael's side actually has both Swagger and Taunt, so that hidden power won't be available to hit the Landorus on Toler's side.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these players can adjust to against these two teams. We're heading right into the game. Toler on the top of your screen. Let me hear you if you want to hear Toler win. And on the bottom half of your screen, that's Raphael, Bagara, that's Landorus and Thunderous. Is Canada in the house today? All right, a little bit of a home field advantage for Toler, but there are some Canadians here backing Raphael. So double genies for Raphael, and then one genie and the rain for Toler.
Yeah, Politoed, one of the Pokemon that is different between these two teams. Politoed can do pretty well against Landorus, not quite as well against Thunderous, though. As Raphael will likely remember from checking on Toler's team, does have that Wakan Berry. So, single Thunderbolt definitely not going to knock it out. Depending on how bulky the Politoed winds up being and how the Thunderous is trained, it might actually take 3. So, not quite the type advantage you might be hoping for. However, unlike most Game 1s, he knows this information coming in, so this might feel a little bit more like a second or third game in a series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if these players can make those adaptations. Thunderous taunting on Toler's side. Doesn't want Raphael's Thunderous to get any motivation or any momentum on the side. Earthquake from Raphael. Going to try and just deal some damage to that Politoed. Most likely trying to go for a quick KO on it. Thunderbolt onto the Politoed. Activates the Wackenberry. So not going to be able to pick up the KO here unless he gets a critical hit. Not quite. Down to a red HP. Dealing good damage there, so Politoed going to hang on with just a sliver of health and get a Scald back on Landorus. 5 HP, but the burn! And Toler is excited about that. That's going to be a KO on that Landorus thanks to the burn.
Yeah, Landorus just barely goes down there. It seemed like that was going to be a positive trade for Raphael. Even though neither side was going to get the knockout there without that Scald burn. It's an advantage when you get the faster Pokemon in that situation, but it just doesn't quite work out there. Politoed able to survive because of the Wakan Berry. For a second, I thought that maybe Raphael had just forgotten that it was there, but I think it still would have been a good trade. Unfortunately, Landorus just not quite able to hang on there.
Yeah, Gardevoir now out on the field for Raphael. We did already see the taunt coming out from Toler's Thunderous, though. So if Raphael wants to get the Trick Room up, he's either going to have to make some hard reads or get that Thunderous off the field.
That he is. And I think one thing both players are probably going to be looking to learn here is which Thunderous is quicker. That information isn't available to them yet, so big deal, especially when both of them have taunt.
And Raphael's Thunderous, previously taunted, has to switch out so he can come back in at a later date. Heatran now on the field, but Heatran, even though it's kind of a frog, does not like the rain, being that fire typing. Gardevoir Mega evolving right away, puts on its Sunday best for this Championship Sunday. Politoed protecting itself as well, just trying to make sure that it survives another turn. And Thunderous, using that Thunder Wave, wants to make sure that it has a chance of restricting the attacking ability of one of Raphael's Pokemon. Gardevoir is paralyzed, and it's fully paralyzed, so not able to get off any attacks. And really good turn for Toler there, but you have to worry about having a paralyzed Gardevoir if you know that it has Trick Room.
Yeah, that option is definitely available. If he's afraid enough of it, taunt is a good way to stop it, but that'll definitely come at a cost. I think Politoed clearly protecting there to try to avoid having to deal with a Hyper Voice, and if he does go for that taunt and takes a Hyper Voice in return, it kind of erases the advantage he got in the last turn. Also, we see Heatran joining the field. On teams like Raphael's, we tend to either see it with safety goggles to help deal with enemy Amoonguss, which would be helpful here since Toler has one, or Life Orb. This Heatran is the Life Orb variant, so it's going to do big damage if it gets some attacks off.
Well, hopefully it can deal that big damage even in the rain. Politoed switches out for the Aegislash. Usually not something you want to switch into a Heatran, but with the rain up, going to be a little bit more protected. Thunderwave again from Toler's Thunderous, going to paralyze the Heatran. Heatran gets the Earth Power up onto the Aegislash slot, going to deal good damage to that, not worrying about the rain at all. Super effective, about half of its HP. Of course, you see that Life Orb recoil is the reason why Raphael was able to deal so much damage. Hyper Voice from Mega Gardevoir dealing more damage to both of Toler's Pokemon, just enough to activate that Citrus Berry on Toler's Thunderous. So getting that item out of the way can be huge for making sure that Thunderous is unable to disrupt the rest of the team.
It can. Thunderous only going to be able to take a couple more attacks. Fortunately, avoiding that Hyper Voice earlier with the power of Paralysis, which will allow it to take one more. And Paralysis is going to be a big deal here. Gardevoir opting to go for on the offense instead of using Trick Room. So Aegislash, a relatively slow Pokemon, is going to be quicker than either of these. Should be able to easily take out that Gardevoir if it has the opportunity to. So definitely going to cause some caution in Raphael here.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of caution for Raphael, but Toler is also playing cautiously, protecting his Aegislash with that King Shield. But Gardevoir also going to protect itself, going through the paralysis. Thunderbolt from Thundurus onto Heatran, going to deal damage. We'll have to see if Heatran's going to be able to get off any damage as well. Heat Wave into the King Shield and going to connect with the Thundurus. But of course, in that rain, not going to deal that much. But actually, a critical hit, plus that Life Orb, making sure that Thundurus still feels that one.
Thundurus didn't enjoy that very much at all. Usually a Pokemon that's trained to take special attacks very well, and the rain's up, and it still just chunked it.
Yeah.
However, Heatran also chunking itself a little bit with that Life Orb recoil. Has to worry about Thundurus knocking out with a Thunderbolt, and a great read by Toler using that King Shield. It might not seem like one since Aegislash wasn't targeted by anything other than that Heat Wave, but staying in shield form like that allows this turn to be a little bit safer for him, and he couldn't get that big KO last turn because Gardevoir was going to protect itself anyway. A good read knowing that Gardevoir was going to play it safe.
The Aegislash is going to continue to play it safe as well with Wide Guard on his team. Thunderbolt onto the Heatran, going to see if he can pick up that KO. Yes, Heatran will go down. Toler's Thundurus just able to deal enough damage, and Gardevoir is paralyzed again. So Raphael not going to be able to get off any damage that turn and just takes the feint onto Heatran. So unfortunate loss of a Pokemon there and another full paralysis.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Gardevoir may have been using Hyper Voice anyway. Certainly that's what Toler was expecting as the Wide Guard keys there. But either way, Toler's got a 4-2 advantage now. The Thundurus coming back in fully healthy. Taunt, Thunderbolt could both be very helpful here. Taunt and that Aegislash would make things a little bit more tricky for it, make it harder for it to dance with this Gardevoir. But Thundurus not like to let that happen, and both sides probably wanting the information this turn of which Thundurus is quicker moving into game 2. So regardless of what happens here, it might not be the worst thing in the world for either player. A big part of these mirrors between the two Thundurus is realizing, if I'm slower, I have to Thunderbolt him from right of the taunt, and it's kind of getting that idea on the floor.
Or, of course, if they're the same speed, you have to win that coin flip.
Yeah, the best thing to do, right? Just make things a little bit more of a toss-up, which will be a big advantage for whichever player wins game 1, if so. And when you have to play through those coin flips over the course of a series, you expect them to go about even, right? Thus a coin flip. So winning the first one's a big deal.
Well, Toler is going to take a Thunderbolt. Thundurus moving first for Raphael. Thunderbolt not enough onto the Aegislash. The Thunderbolt from Toler's Thundurus onto Gardevoir going to connect. Aegislash switching over to its Blade form on the offensive. Most likely going to try and get that Gardevoir down. Shadow Ball comes out onto Gardevoir. The handshake across the table. Easy KO onto Gardevoir. Raphael dropping this first set as it's just his Thundurus against the Sword and Shield and the Thunder Genie.
And the two Pels in the back as well. Toler likely not going to get the clean 4-0 sweep here, but I'd assume we'll probably see a forfeit and a really dominant Game 1 victory by Toler.
Yeah, very dominant from Toler. Not quite 4-0, but still very much in control the entire game. Of course, Raphael may have gotten enough information about some of those speed tiers that you mentioned before. Toler going with the taunt again onto Raphael's Thundurus. Probably wasn't going to try and do anything but attack this turn anyway. The only way for Raphael to get back into it would be to knock out some Pokemon. Gets the knockout onto Toler's Thundurus, but Aegislash with its own Shadow Ball, of course, deals so much damage to these Pokemon. Thundurus really bulky, though, able to tank that pretty easily.
Yeah, both sides learning a little bit about how much damage Aegislash is going to do, which I think was also actually a key to the turn where Gardevoir was knocked out. We saw the Thunderbolt and the Shadow Ball targeting it. Toler definitely assuming that he wasn't going to be able to pick up that knockout with just a super effective Shadow Ball. Some of the Aegislash we've seen this weekend throughout the top cuts in all 3 age divisions, actually. I've seen a lot of Life Orb Aegislash, players choosing to go a higher damage route, where Toler's been a little bit more defensive with his, even though it's a quicker Aegislash. He's going with leftovers, and that takes your damage down a little bit. So you need a partner to help out, pick up those big knockouts sometimes.
Well, one of those partners could be Mega Gardevoir, as Toler finally switches that in, shows that Gardevoir is his Mega that he chose to bring. So Thunderbolt from Raphael, going to deal good damage to that Blade form Aegislash. Will pick up that KO, so a respectable 2-1 lead for Toler now. Hyper Voice from Gardevoir dealing full damage to Thundurus, though, as the only target on the field. A critical hit, just gravy on top of